Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar about special ad audiences in Facebook. Let's see if all the technical stuff is working well. Can you please maybe post something in the chat if you can hear us well, if you can see us well? I'm going to share my slides.
That seems to be
also
working. We get thumbs up.
See.
Hello, hello, hello. My God.
There you go.
People from all over Europe joining in.
Ooh, exciting.
That sounded so genuine.
Let me see. All right. So normally you should see the slide now. Online webinar, Facebook announces targeting changes for recruitment campaigns. And that is exactly what we're going to discuss today, because the targeting changes are applicable as from today. So this is really important to keep in mind. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Stephanie. I'm the marketing lead at Simple, and next to me stands Mark. He's one of the founders of Simple. Now, what is on the agenda for today? We're going to talk about recruiting on Facebook and especially targeting on Facebook, because there is a difference between yesterday and today. We're going to share our learnings. We're going to tell you what you can do as starting from today. And then we're going to end with data is king. Also, if you have questions during the webinar, please don't hesitate to ask them in the chat at the right bottom. You can ask any questions you like concerning this topic, of course. And we're also going to launch some polls to make it a bit more interactive. Now, first, really quickly, what we do at Simple, we provide qualified candidates, and we do this by focusing on passive candidates, which I explain to you later. We do this through targeted advertising on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and also a bit of LinkedIn. And we do this in a user-friendly process. Now, why should you believe us? Well, we've done over more than 6,000 recruitment campaigns. We analyze 11 million data points per month, which is a lot. I'm not doing this all by myself, but here you can see some of our customers as well.
Steph, before you go further, did you change the mic to that is okay? Because all right, just double checking, because I think we now kind of switched back to our mic, so I hope the sound is now okay. That you can hear me properly, because there was some echo. Okay, good. Apologies for that, but then we are ready.
All right.
After the obligatory advertising part for Simple, we can now dive into the real stuff.
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, because I don't think you mentioned that, please ask questions. That's why you did mention it, because everything is a bit chaotic now.
Yes, I know. Okay. So please ask questions.
Yeah, because if you don't ask questions, I have nothing to do. And as you can see, I will start blabbing away without any reason.
All right. First of all, when we talk about Facebook, then, we talk about Meta, because it changed. Facebook has changed their names, and Meta has different platforms. It's not only Facebook, but also Instagram, Messenger, and Audience Network. And this is important to keep in mind. If we talk about targeting on Facebook, then we also mean Instagram, Messenger, and Audience Network. Now, why should you be doing recruitment campaigns on Facebook and Instagram? Well, 20% is actually actively looking for a job, and they're looking on job boards, on Indeed, on LinkedIn, on Google. But 80% of the working population is not actively looking for a job. And you have to find them where they are every single day. And where are they every single day? On Facebook and Instagram. We know that on average, a person scrolls 160 meters a day on Facebook and Instagram, which is a lot. And there you have to pop out with your advertisement for your job vacancy. All right.
Yes, and maybe just a bit of one of the things we learned over the past years, and we really want to kind of come across and bring across here today, is that there's a million possibilities to target on Facebook. Now, for people in vacancy ads, and we'll talk about it later, there's going to be a lot less, but actually we don't see it as a problem, we see it as an opportunity. Because what tends to happen is that people get blindsided and they see all the targeting possibilities on Facebook. And what they then tend to do is to go very narrow And wait, let me try to go one step back. Maybe they go very narrow because they think I want to reach people in this location with these interests, with this background, tack, 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 tack. So then I'm not going to have to pay a lot for reaching those people, and I can hire effectively at a low cost. Actually, that's not how Facebook works. And that's really important to keep in mind. Actually, sometimes it's better, I'll just click here, it's better to go to a much larger audience, right? And let the Facebook algorithm play around, do some testing, because on Facebook, if you set up your campaign correctly, and that's important, and we'll talk about that, but if you have the right data set, if you set up your campaign correctly, by actually going broader, you will be paying less per application, you will be paying less per click, because it allows Facebook to move around, to do a lot more testing. And that's really important to keep in mind also, because obviously the special ads categories are giving less possibilities and more restrictions. You might think that's a bad thing, but actually we're convinced, and our past 3 years of campaigning has shown that if you go broader with the right set of data, your results will be better. Okay, so that's really something else. Kind of keep that in mind throughout the presentation. The more data you have, the broader you can go, actually the better your campaign will be. We have some very interesting tests that we've done, which we'll share at the end.
Yes. Now, before we can dive into the Facebook targeting announcement and the changes, we want to show you really quickly that you need to get the basics right. And maybe let's launch the first poll to see who already installed the Facebook pixel on their website.
Right, so if all goes well, you should see a poll now on the right bottom of your screen. There's a poll there. You can submit a vote. We'll have a look at the results. Oh, wow, interesting. That's different than in other webinars. Almost half of people have installed the Facebook Pixel. So they are able to collect some good data from that. Nice. And the minority of people are asking what the hell a Facebook Pixel is. Okay. So probably we shouldn't be spending too much time explaining that. That's good news.
Yes. So for those people that don't know what a Facebook Pixel is, the Facebook Pixel is actually a piece of code that you have to install on your website. And then you can collect data of all the visitors that come to your website, and it will send back those data to Facebook again. It's totally GDPR approved, but of course you have to mention it in your privacy policy of your website.
There's a comment from Thomas saying that the Pixel is not a problem, but the new API thing is.
Yes.
I'm assuming Thomas is referring to the new conversion API of Facebook, which was installed because of 14.5 implementation of Apple privacy statements, privacy applications. We're not going to be discussing that here. We'll talk about that in a different webinar on how to use a conversion API. So stay tuned for that, Thomas, but I don't think today, because we don't have time to go deeper into the conversion API.
All right. Now, why is the Facebook Pixel useful? Well, for us, there are 3 important things. First of all, retargeting. Once people come to your vacancy and they don't apply at that time, then you can retarget them with campaigns or with different advertisements again. So you keep top of mind within your audience to actually.
Lost again. Sorry. All right. Sorry, I'm just stepping back in again because I think we again lost Stephanie.
Is it? I don't think so.
No? Okay, all right, good. Let's continue.
All right. The second important thing is to track conversions. You need to tell, or you need to install the conversions well, so that Facebook knows when a conversion has taken place. And this is also set up within the Facebook Pixel. The third one is to build audiences. And this is a really, really important one. And I want to highlight it again, that if you already have collected data over the past years or over the past months, then you can build new audiences thanks to the Facebook Pixel. But we will come back to that later in this webinar again. Now, let's start with today.
This is a big announcement.
Yes, there is a big announcement. So this is what Meta threw it into the world. Well, actually, they threw it into the world, but it wasn't really clear, to be honest. But advertising, placing housing, employment, or credit opportunity ads targeted to people in Europe will be required to declare those ads as belonging to a special ad category, and they will have a restricted set of targeting options, and this requirement starting today. Now, why does Facebook do this? Why does Meta do this? Well, the options that you could choose for targeting people that are looking for a job, they are limited now, or they are changed. And why? Because Facebook doesn't want you to target personal characteristics of a person. So they won't, the options you choose should not discriminate against people based on personal characteristics. So the targeting options around age, for example, gender, but also postal codes are changed or are restricted. I will come back to that later.
Maybe just to put a bit of context on that, and I think, everybody reads the news. Facebook is under a lot of pressure about fake news, about political ads, about helping Trump get elected, etc., etc. And we really see that they're cracking down on this and trying to kind of make sure that nobody's abusing their platform. There were already a lot of rules for political ads, political advertising, and now basically they're looking at the next set of ads, and I want to absolutely avoid that. And I think there's probably a lawsuit or liability issue at stake here also. They want to make sure that nobody's able to use their platform in a discriminatory way. So it's a much bigger story than just kind of these three ads. We foresee that this will start happening also to other categories. But obviously employment, housing, and credit is apparently, according to Facebook, the areas where there's a lot of discrimination happening, and they want to make sure that's not possible through their platform.
So just to be very clear, as from today, if you are launching recruitment campaigns, then you have to define them as a special ad campaign. What are the risks if you don't do that? Well, unfortunately, your ad account will be banned, will be blocked, and you can't do anything about it. We talked to Facebook, as we are a privileged partner of them, and they were really serious about this. So if you're advertising vacancies and you don't select the special ad category, your ad account might be blocked.
And just because this happened to us very early in the beginning, a couple of years ago, if your account is blocked, you're basically, I don't want to use the word, but there's nothing you can do. There's no helpline, there's no support for that. Although you can contact support, but a lot of people say we don't know, because not everybody will be aware of why your account is blocked. So this is not something that, you're blocked for an hour. You risk being blocked for days, if not weeks, right? Without having access to your past data, without having access to your ads, basically you cannot get onto the system. So this is really, I was stressed because I remember when it happened. And again, thanks to our relationship with Facebook, we were able to turn around. It was kind of a totally different story, but this is something you would absolutely want to avoid. So we already have some questions on that. Basically, should I change this? Basically, what first question, Stephanie, maybe, what happens with campaigns, vacancy recruitment campaigns that are on air already now?
Well, good question. You should change them as from today, actually yesterday midnight. We asked the same question at our Facebook contact, and he said you should change them as from today. Yeah.
And also that's the second question from Victor. So the ads you put up today, yes, that will be a problem.
Yes.
So the ones you start today, the ones that are currently running, you should be, and we've spent the last 4 or 5 days diligently checking and double checking and triple checking that this was done. But, and maybe just to put a timeline on there, this announcement came 28th of September.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't very published. It wasn't very kind of public,
no.
But the actual announcement from Facebook was 28th of September. So in the eyes of Facebook, that means you've had enough time to prepare. You've had enough time to get ready. And 7th of December is, like we said, it's a hard ending. It ends today. I feel like a bit of spokesperson
Yeah.
for Facebook. No, we're not, to make that very clear, but we just want to make sure that you're tuning into this webinar because you're interested in this. So we want to make that very clear. And then question here. Does this involve paid ad campaigns or also advertising where you share a link to your vacancies on your own website? And my understanding would be it does. Yeah. It's advertising, right? But if you're advertising and there's any kind of link to jobs, that's also included. Actually, it's maybe good to go to the next. No, Mika, we're going to come back to that question in 2 slides because we'll talk into detail on how broad the category of vacant or house employment ads is. So bear with us for 2 slides.
All right. Now, I just want to show you really quickly, for those who don't know, campaigns in Ads Manager have several components. And the first one is a campaign level. And there you have to choose the objective. So for example, if you want to have as much as clicks, then you're going to choose traffic, obviously. But there are lots of other objectives, which you can find in one of our other webinars. But underneath the ad set level, underneath campaign level, you have the ad set level. And there you have to define your audience, you have to choose your channels and your budgets. And then underneath the ad set level, you have the advertisement itself. Like you can see here, this was one of advertisements for one of our clients. And on the ad level, you have to write your copy, you have to upload your visuals, etc. Now, the changes, the targeting changes are affected for the campaign level and the ad set level. And I will come back to that in more detail right now. So what do you have to do on the campaign level? On the campaign level, you will have the options to say to Facebook that you're doing a special ad category campaign. And there you will have to choose the category that you're doing, in this case, employment. Then you have to choose your country. And why is this? Well, for every country, there are different restrictions concerning targeting. So this is also important to keep in mind. The things that we are going to explain in this webinar are for Europe, but it will be different for the US, it will be different for Africa. So that's also important to keep in mind. And also in the US, the special ad audiences already exist, I think 2 years now.
Yeah, 2019. Beginning of 2019, it started over there with this, which also means, I think, as far as we know, there are still some countries where Facebook hasn't implemented this. So for instance, if you would be targeting, and I know it well, if you have job ads running in Tanzania, even if you're based as a company in Belgium, then those restrictions will not apply. So just because there's a couple of questions that I noticed that were in the question tabs also, so just going to pause here. First, coming back to the question of Mika, on your question was, does it also apply to advertisements where you share a link to vacancies on your website? Based on our interpretation of this, it does indeed, right?
But not organic posting.
No, not organic. No, but it's a question about advertising.
Okay,
right? So the moment you advertise, if you give a link, so and even if you would be talking about perks, for instance, if you would say, as of today, all employees in our company get a company car. If that's your advertising, even if it wouldn't kind of apply or wouldn't link to people to apply, Facebook will still see it as related to job, because we're only showing the top line here. But everything related to job, everything related to vacancies, even from afar, right? That basically that will fall under this category. So that's a question to answer to Mika. Then there was a question from Jojo on does it depend on the objectives? We use traffic to drive traffic to our job site? No, exactly. So that basically this is for all campaigns, as we've just explained. And then I'll go to the question links. Question from Bruce, that's a good one. That if you do social issues, or will it be important? Will you have to upload your ID to Facebook to become a verified user to do employment ads? That's a good question.
Well, if you have a business manager with an ad account, then your idea is already then Facebook already knows your idea.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the answer there. Second question from another question from Lottie. Does Facebook limit your ad posting ability if you post job ad as a normal post instead of a job post? So that's the organic.
Yeah, that's organic. No, you can still post organic postings because you don't define an audience to see those specific posts. So it's only applicable for advertisements.
Yes. And then there's a question from Pauline on whether we will share the recordings, and I think we will. So
we will. Normally we will, yes.
Yeah, we will send out an email with the recordings. And then Gloria asks, I would like to go deeper into retargeting strategies. Good question, Gloria, but you'll have to.
Well, maybe we can share the link of our academy.
Yeah.
We have a simple academy because it's not our first webinar that we do. For this topic, it's the first one, but we have done lots of webinars. We've written lots of white papers concerning recruiting on Facebook and Instagram, but you can have a look at them via the link that Mark will share you. All right. Now, concerning the ad set level, where you have to define your target audience, let me just really quickly tell you how it was done until yesterday. So you have to choose a location, but I will come back to that into detail. You could choose, okay, I only want to show these ads between a minimum age and a maximum age, and also defined by gender. You could choose more than 6 million interests to target your specific audience. And then the last one, and this is the most important one, if you already have data, then you can also build very easily audiences for your recruitment campaigns. Now, what is changing as from today, age and gender, you can't select anymore. So there is not an option for it. The age will be from 18 years old till 65 plus, which is of course a wide range. And then all the other three, you still will be able to target location, interests, etc. But there will be some changes, which I will explain right now. Concerning the location, you can choose to choose a country, for example, Belgium. You can choose a region, a city, postal code, a specific address. You could type in a specific street, specific address, and then you could narrow your location really narrow, minimum 1 kilometers. And you could also use, you could also say, okay, I want to exclude this area of my location. Now, what is changing as from today is that you can't target based on a postal code anymore. You can't target a specific address anymore. And the radius is changing to minimum 15 kilometers around your location. And the last one, you can't exclude locations anymore. This is maybe a bit of a problem if you're looking for, let's say, a city next to the border of a country, because then you can't say, okay, I want to exclude that specific country anymore. So these are the changes concerning location.
Just going to jump to a couple of questions here, Stephanie. So the question of, is this same for advertising for student jobs? Yes. Is the answer. And then a question from Elke, this is only for recruitment campaigns, not for other sales campaigns. No, unless you're selling housing.
Yeah.
That's important. So everything which is related to housing, real estate, renting houses, holiday rentals, everything like that. Mm-hmm. And the second is everything related to credit or financing.
Yes.
So, but if you're basically selling shoes, then, there's no discrimination possible there. Facebook is assuming, so no need to change your campaigns over there. And yes, Nela, we will share the recordings for those people who are staying till the end, I think.
Yes. All right. Then concerning interests, so let me just really quickly explain you how it's done now. So, for example, if you're looking for someone in, let's say, a social media expert, like you see here, then you can select different interests in Facebook Ads Manager. So, for example, if you're looking for a social media expert, then they might be interested in Facebook, in AdWords, in content marketing, in advertising, etc. So you can still select those interests. The only thing that is changing within the interests section is that the interests based on personal characteristics, for example, if you're married or not, that is not you're not able to target those people anymore. I think concerning recruitment campaigns, these changes aren't really like a big impact for you, but there is a change in the interests section. All right, now you can also create custom audiences, and I will explain to you what that is. So a custom audience is via the Facebook pixel, for example. You can target people that already visited your vacancy page, your specific vacancy page. That is all through the Facebook pixel. But you can also upload a list of people that you want to target. For example, if you have a list of your 200 best sales managers, then you can upload them. Of course, you have to ask their permission as well. And then you can make a broadened audience of that, but I will come back to that later. But what is changing for the custom audiences is not the audiences thanks to the Facebook pixel, but if you upload the list, then Facebook will not keep in mind the ages and gender, so the personal characteristics of that list. Okay.
And that might be important because sometimes Facebook could also use that data to actually make sure that they have the right person that you want to target. So they will not take that into account. And for that reason, we also advise not to upload that with your data, because it might kind of send out the wrong signal to the Facebook system.
Yes. Now, once you've created your defined target audience and your custom audience, you can broaden that audience. And you could make lookalike audiences of the custom audience. And what is a lookalike audience? It's actually just a broader audience, but based on the behaviors and the personal characteristics of your custom audience. Now, what is changing as from today is that you can't use lookalike audiences anymore. These are replaced by special ad audiences. The principle stays the same, but it's just another name. And also, if Facebook makes a special ad audiences, he won't look at the personal characteristics of the custom audience. All right, I hope everything is clear.
There's no questions anymore, a bit surprising. So I'm not sure if that's all very clear or people are just kind of confused now by all the changes.
Yeah.
So again, if we're going too quick, if you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to put something in the questions tab or in the chat.
Because we know it's a lot of information as well.
Gloria is saying we're just actively listening. Thank you, Gloria. Okay, so question of Sasha, maybe it would be important because I think there's a question from Melke to repeat is also, is it just a name? That's not the same. No, it's not just a name. Maybe could to explain it maybe again.
Yeah, so the lookalike audience, well, the principle is the same. You have a custom audiences and you want to broaden that audience, and that will be the special ad audiences. But Facebook will only look at the behavioral similarities in the custom audience, but not the personal attributes of those persons.
Maybe let's put it completely. Let's give an example. In the past, if you had a custom audience and your custom audience, because you were looking for, I don't know, nannies, right? Maybe 80% of the people in that custom audience were female and only 20% were male. If you would then make a lookalike audience, i.e. you would tell Facebook, look, now find me 50,000 people that are similar to this audience of 1,000, right? This custom audience. The chances are high that in your lookalike audience, you would still have about 80% women and about 20% men, right? Because it will then look at the custom audience, will say, well, this seems to be more female oriented. I will also start looking more for females because I think they're more likely to click on an ad for becoming a nanny. And I said, with all the respect for nannies, and I'm all for male nannies or non-binary nannies, as you hope to understand. But that's to explain the system. Now, if you would upload the same audience, first of all, we would advise you to not take the gender into the upload list. That's number one. But secondly, even if it's in there, Facebook will not take into account the 80% split of women, and they will just start looking about what else do these people have in common, what sites do they click on, what articles do they read, how long do they stay on Facebook, etc., etc., etc. So the special ad audience is only based on behavioral data, i.e. what are actually people doing, not who are they based on discriminatory characteristics. I think maybe that's better to kind of use that as an understanding. While I was talking, all these questions popped in. That's never a good sign.
I'm not going to say anything now.
Okay. All right, Valeria is asking, we also have lookalike audiences. Do we have to adjust these?
Yes, you definitely have to.
Yeah.
If Facebook knows that you are doing vacancies, recruitment campaigns, then you will definitely be banned, or they will come back to you to say that you have to use special ad audiences.
Yeah. And there's a question from Yo-Yo, I think building on his earlier question. So he's saying, look, we have campaigns with the objective traffic to drive traffic to our job portal. Do we need to change the objectives? You don't need to change the objectives, but...
You don't need to change the objective. It doesn't matter which objective you're using, but you have to declare that it's actually a tick box in Ads Manager. Maybe if we have time, I will show you, but you have to tick off that you're doing a special ad category, and then you have to choose employment. But it doesn't mind which objective you're doing. No.
Yeah. A good question from Dario saying, I see it's only possible to target on interests. I mean, that's not entirely true. I mean, it's just that there's more restrictions. You can still say, for instance, I want to target people 40 kilometers around London, right? But you cannot say, I want to target 5 kilometers around Big Ben, right? And I want to exclude everybody who's on the south bank of the River Thames. You cannot do that anymore, right? But yes, you're right, the target audience will be much higher than before. But again, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is not a bad thing, right? You have to keep that in mind. And we'll talk about using other data sets, but actually giving the Facebook algorithm room to do its thing, to start testing, to look at, where the most interesting candidates or users are. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And I know it sounds like that, but bear with us. Steph is going to show some interesting testing, which actually proves the contrary. Okay, question from, I don't know, that's an answer from Michiel to Yo-Yo, thank you. So Victor says, when I adjust the special ad category, we eventually need to change the targeting. Yes, but it will be done for you. Because once you click special ad category, you will not be able to kind of go to the targeting for new campaigns.
So, yes, new campaigns. But if you adjust a current campaign, then you will see that the lookalike audience will immediately disappear as well. So you have to make a special ad audiences of your custom audience there, and you will see that the age range will be not selectable, and also the gender will be selected for you, and you can't change it anymore.
Okay, there's a question from Ineke. Can we still target specific degrees or job titles? I'm looking right now. That's wrong. Ineke, you should be paying attention to this webinar, and then you should go look in Facebook Ads Manager. But you are forgiven, right? You're looking right now, and you can't find them anymore in your targeting options. Steph?
Yes, that is actually true. You can't select the job titles anymore, and you can't select the degrees anymore.
Okay. Now, to be honest, I mean, that information was shit anyway, right? I mean, because we've done quite a bit of testing with that anyway. So the fact that you can't use it anymore, it's not a big loss for your campaigns, because we've done several tests on that. And to be clear for the audience, we're talking about Facebook now. We're not talking about LinkedIn, where this data is indeed relevant. But on Facebook, the job information, the target information was really not the right way to do your targeting. And I think we have another webinar on that,
Yes.
on how to do the targeting. So I think that's the least of your worries, the fact that those targeting interests are not there. And then there's a question from Haya Wout. What is the statement of the Facebook pixel? Is there still an iOS issue, or is this solved? Sorry, there's a loud laughter now.
Yeah.
No, it's not solved. I think Haya, what I mentioned, because there was a similar question before.
Yeah.
I think the iOS issue with the Facebook pixel is completely different than what we're discussing here. We are planning to do a webinar on that because we actually have done some tests. I'm not saying we have a solution, but I think we have some ways forward with that. But so stay tuned. That's going to be a different webinar. And let me check, because I think in the chat there's now 2 more questions. Priscilla is asking, did Facebook communicate those changes? And where did they do that?
Well,
because I can imagine a lot of people will be blocked without knowing or being aware of the changes. Over to you, Stephanie.
I think you're true. You're right, sorry. Because Facebook did mention it on their Facebook business platform. So if you Google it, you will definitely find articles of Facebook itself. The way they do it is maybe not the right way, because you really have to search for it. They don't send it out to the world to let you know.
Facebook is assuming that you should be paying attention to their messages, but and this is without any criticism whatsoever. But they are probably not the best communicator in these kind of changes. But as Stephanie said, please don't take our word for it. Just Google it, and on the Facebook Ads Manager support pages, you will see a lot of this information. Of course, not with the tests that we have done, that we still have to show now. But at least you can see the rules and their policies on that. Question from Sten: do you think LinkedIn will follow these restrictions soon as well?
Good question.
Good question. I think. Shall I take this?
Yeah.
I think what you'll see is, you'll see Google starting to implement this. I think it won't be too long, because they're probably also aware of some of the changes or some of the discrimination that is possible there. I think LinkedIn is a different question. At this moment, unless I'm mistaken, you cannot target on age on LinkedIn. You can target on experience or level of experience, but you cannot choose age as a criterion, or can you?
We have to check it again.
Yeah, but I don't think you can. I think LinkedIn is a bit of a different animal, because obviously that's kind of their bread and butter. And everything which is employment, that's 80%, or that's at least 60% of their turnover. So I think it will take a bit more time on the side of LinkedIn. And there was a follow-up question on Ineke. When I mentioned that the targeting on master or on job titles wasn't really relevant, the question is, what targeting options would you recommend for job ads or general interests? Again, in the interest of time, I would park that, Ineke. Please check in the Academy for our targeting webinar, where we go into kind of quite in a deep dive on how to explain how to do that. And obviously, we'll show it in the end. I will show some examples of how you could use our software to do that also.
Okay. All right. Let's share some of our experiments that we've done in the last couple of weeks. So we launched some campaigns, same audience, same targeting, same advertisements, but we did an A/B test where you only differ one variable. And we select the special ad audience, and then the other one, the B version, was with a lookalike audience, because till yesterday you could use lookalike audiences. So we did a test, lookalike audiences versus special ad audiences, and we've done that for I think 15 campaigns or something with all different job functions. Like you can see here, I know it's in Flemish. We didn't have the time to translate everything, but we were looking for someone in electricity. We were looking for a communication partner, and on the right you see that we were looking for a key account manager. I want to share with you the results, which were pretty amazing, I would say. So the first one is that the cost per click was more or less the same. So the cost between lookalike audiences and special ad audiences was more or less the same, which is a good thing, of course. The second one is that the click-through was almost double with the special ad audiences, comparing with the lookalike audiences. So that's also a really good thing that that more people clicked on the advertisements comparing with the lookalike audiences. And then the third one, and this is the most important one, is that we saw much more applications with the special ad audiences comparing with the lookalike audiences. Now, what is important to keep in mind, and it's also on the slides, it's thanks to our data sets. And this is important because we didn't use interest audiences. We didn't use broad audiences where we just select the location. No, we really compared lookalike audiences. So the audiences that we created based on our data sets that we already have from our 6,000 recruitment campaigns that we've done. And we compared those with the special ad audiences, also based on our data sets, which we have from more than 6,000 recruitment campaigns. All right.
Yeah, and that's, I think, important. We talked about in the past already about start building your own data, start building the data you have from campaigns in the past, either through the pixel or through kind of other kind of ways of doing that. And that's going to be, that's really very important. Again, going back to my picture from the beginning, if you go broader, that's not a bad thing. If you have the right data sets, if you know where to look, if you know what you need to target on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now there's a question from Raza, but I think that was before you did you showed the application. So Raza, yes, that of course it means the right people had to click it, but because the applications went ×2 or ×5, we're assuming it was the right people who clicked.
All right. Now, what can you do as from today? The first one is, I think you should be more specific in your advertisement. So what people will see, because they will show, Facebook will show it to a minimum age of 18 till more than 65 years old. So what we recommend is, if you're looking for a junior profile, that you really mention it on your advertisements. If you're looking for a more experienced profile, the one on the right, for example, then you should mention it also. And also in the copy above the advertisement, if you're looking for someone who has just left college, then you can say, want to kickstart your career in sales, or just literally say it like just left college and ready to start your career, or be really, really specific in your copy. And also, if you're looking for a junior profile, then show also pictures of people that are maybe younger than older people. So make sure that your advertisement and your copy is really good for the people that you want to target. So that the clicks that you get are qualitative clicks for your target audience. I also want to share a link in the chat because this Thursday, we're hosting a webinar about how you can make successful visuals for your recruitment campaigns. So I really want to invite you to that webinar as well, because we're going to dive into more detail there in that webinar about the visuals. Now, we already said it, you have to collect data. And why is this so important? I want to show you the funnel. You have the recruitment funnel. And what is a funnel? It's actually a visualization of the process, of the steps that a person takes. So for example, if you have an application, then the next step is a selection process, which can be different in every company. And then hopefully you come to a hire. But before recruitment funnel, you also have the marketing funnel. And there are different steps for it. And the first one is the discover phase. In the discover phase, you will not show your vacancy advertisement yet, but you will show a broader advertisement. So for example, if you're looking for someone in construction, then you can say, then you can launch a test about construction, or you can write a blog about construction, the new trends for 2022 or something, but you won't show your vacancy yet. It's only in the engage phase that you will talk about career opportunities. Are you looking for a new opportunity? Do you want to boost your career? So you know that people that click on that advertisement are willing to change their job. And it's only in the tracked phase that you will show your specific vacancy advertisement. So here, for example, they were searching for a construction engineer. And then if they click on that advertisement, then they will land on your vacancy page. But it is important to keep in mind all those steps, so you know also where to optimize your campaigns to see where it goes wrong. And I think for the next couple of weeks, it's important that you do so, because you can also then, well, play with the audiences that you selected, etc., to see if your advertisement is still working well for your recruitment campaigns.
Well, sorry, that's one point. If I can just pick onto that, Stephanie. What's very important, and I hope that you understand, the discover, engage, attract phase, because in the discover phase, that's one of the moments when you will start building your data sets. That's when you will start understanding on who is reacting to this kind of content. And obviously, and that's, I think, important to keep in mind, you can still do that. So if, just kind of, you can maybe click back to the example of discover, right? Just to make sure you show it to people. If you have content linked to people working in construction or people in that area, this at this very moment is not yet a advertising or a vacancy ad. So your data collection can still happen, right? With all the previous tools, all the previous possibilities that you have. So that's, building your data set, your basic data set is still possible. It will take some time. It will take extra investment. So gone are the days where you just push your advertising, your vacancy ad, and it will work. So this is important to start understanding. You need to build data well ahead of time that you can then reuse. I will come back to it in a second. But that's important, because this, obviously, if it's about content, this is not a vacancy or an employment ad. So please keep that in mind.
Yes.
Just not because there's two good questions. There's a question from Gauthier. What's the average cost per hire for your client campaigns at the moment? And do you think it will increase with these new restrictions?
Okay, so the cost per hire depends on different aspects. I mean, if it depends on the branch, it depends on the company. Is it a strong brand? It depends on the job function. It depends on the requirements. It depends on how good your advertisement is. If you have nice visuals, is there something what's really different from your competitors? So there are lots of different aspects, and we can't give you like just one number for the cost per hire. It all depends on which vacancy you're doing advertisement for.
Yeah, but I think, if you would have to kind of put a number out there, that's also something which we mentioned when we did a targeting webinar, I think. If you think you can hire from a media cost, if you think you can hire people, you can recruit people with 200, 300, 400 euros, you are mistaken, right? We are more looking at campaigns of about 30 days where we're spending about 50 euros per day. So 1,500 euros, that's kind of ballpark figure from a media cost perspective, something you will need to take into account. That could be for a vacancy where you will hire 4 or 5 people. And then of course, your cost per hire is going to be pretty low. If you are looking for a senior sales engineer, you probably will only find one on a 30-day campaign, and then that's going to be your cost per hire, or at least your media cost per hire. On the follow-on, the second part of your question, Gauthier, will it cost increase? We actually don't think so.
Yeah.
The tests we've done, and that's what Stephanie was showing, the CPM, so the cost per mil, the cost per 1,000 impressions, seems to be the same. Again, we are, of course, using our data set. We are using our past data know-how to do that. But for us at this moment, it doesn't look like it's actually increasing the cost.
No, it's actually decreasing a
Yeah,
bit
yeah, okay,
because
because your
we have
applications are
more,
right. Yeah,
more
you're right.
applications.
Exactly right. But the CPM, my point was the
Yeah.
CPM for special ad audiences doesn't seem to be higher, right, than in the past.
But I think we should also wait the next couple of weeks,
Obviously,
because as from today it's applicable. So
now Rick asks, is it overall not cheaper, bottom line called cost per application, to run attract ads straight to cold audiences?
I wouldn't recommend that in the
me
first place. If it's a really cold audience, then you should show content in the discover phase, something so you can narrow your audience. I mean, cold is never a good idea to sell something.
Yeah, and of course, because we have past data that we can use, that we can still use even with the restrictions. So we kind of tend to kind of more use not purely cold audiences, but at least have other data sets that we can reuse. Dario asks, what is the average period you have a campaign live? Because if you want to reach a candidate in multiple funnels, I think you need a longer duration.
Well, we foresee for our clients 30 days, but of course, if you find your hire within 14 weeks, then we stop the campaign, and then you still have some media budget which you can spend for other campaigns. For a difficult profile, it can be that we prolong the 30 days and that you will have to search for more. That we have to search a bit more for a campaign, but it all depends on how good your advertisement is, on if you have something to give to your candidates, comparing to the competitors with the same job function. It all depends.
And I think also what's important is that, and I'm just looking at the timing here, is that we also have a software option where you can actually kind of use our software to do that. We see that those campaigns tend to be shorter, right? When people are managing themselves, also have a bit not always that effective. That's more because of the creative part. Okay. Neil asks, how do you build a data set in discover phase? Again, I would refer to our webinar on targeting to have a look at that, Neil, because that's kind of a bit long explanation. Good. Let's move on.
All right. Let's see where we are. Okay. There are some other useful tools which I want to share with you to collect data. And the first one is Google Analytics. Google Analytics is also a piece of code that you have to install on your website, and it will measure all the behavior that visitors take on your website. The second one is Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is actually a nice tool to install all the pixels from Facebook, from LinkedIn maybe as well, and also the events, the goals. It's actually a really useful tool to install everything correctly. And then the third one is Google Data Studio. They're all from Google, like you can already see. They're all free.
Very important.
Yes. And in Google Data Studio, you can build customized dashboards where you link all the data points from Facebook, from Google, from LinkedIn to one specific dashboard. All right. So I just want to point out again that data is king, and this is today more important than ever, because with the special ad audiences, you really need to collect good data to still target the specific audience that you want to target with your recruitment campaigns due to the restrictions which Facebook has announced. All right. Now, what we've done at Simple is we've built a recruitment software where everyone can put their recruitment campaigns live without any marketing know-how. So you don't have to think about the restrictions, about the special ad audiences, etc. And Mark will show you really quickly.
Very quickly, because we're running out of time.
Yes.
I think it's a good example. If you can see my screen now, yes, you can. So this is our app. First of all, let me explain it here. on the left bottom of the app, you have our academy. So if you have I've already shared the registration link. Maybe Steph can just put it in there again. Once you register, you'll be able to access our academy. But also, if you would want to, you can actually start building your own campaign. I'm now taking a dummy campaign here for a barista in Central Park. You can set up your advertising. And what's important is that not only can you set up your advertising and then kind of start managing it here, upload your picture, upload your logo, but you can also easily add a second visual to then do some A/B testing, as Stephanie explained, and the same for targeting. That's the advantage of using that data sets that we've built. If you're looking for barista, you can then actually go into our data set, right, and use and look at functions which are very closely related, either commercial, marketing, logistics, consultancy, etc., or in this case, hospitality. And then the system will start using, from those 6,000 campaigns, it will start looking at what do the people have in common, what do those campaigns have in common that we were running through an hospitality audience. We'll use that data set, and that's important, within all the restrictions that Facebook has now applied. So as a special ad, it will kind of push this advertising and start targeting people. You can also then start building a vacancy page if you would want a landing page. So you can also track where people are coming, landing on. You can find all of this data once you go live. You have a social media button where you can look at calculations, where you can look at the data flowing in. But I think very important in view of this today, that thanks to this software, you're actually able to kind of use our data sets for your own campaigns. And if you have a lot of data with the tools that Stephanie explained, Google Analytics, and Google Tag Manager and Google Data Studio, you can start building it yourself, or you can do yourself a favor and use our software to do so. Okay, that was it for the shameless plug of advertising here. I'll stop sharing. All right. Hand it over to you.
Yes. So yeah, once again, if you use our software, then you don't have to think about analytical tools or the targeting restrictions, because we all do it for you. Well, actually, our software does it for you.
Such as Stephanie in the background,
in a dark room.
Exactly, managing all your campaigns.
More or less. Okay. If you still have some questions, please, you can still ask them right now. We still have 2 more minutes.
Is the software going to kind of shut us off or not? We don't know.
I have no idea.
We don't know, people. So if the screen goes black, that's yes. You can book a demo, Janten. I will send you an email for that after this webinar. So wait, let me just check then maybe if I can put my link in here. There you go. That's a direct link to a demo with me. So plug in. That's going to be a 15-minute demo, I think. Let me just check. No, sorry. Let's take this one. That's a 15-minute one. That's going to be because the other one is 30 minutes. But in 15 minutes, I can give you a very short demo, and we'll bring you up to speed onto our software.
Yes.
Any other questions?
If you still have some questions in the next couple of days, or if you're adjusting your campaigns and you still have some question, you can always send us an email or send us a private message on LinkedIn. We're really happy to help you with your recruitment campaigns.
Okay, so because somebody's saying there was a question from Michiel, I'm just scrolling back to look. Okay, that's a long question. Sorry, I missed that. Apologies. Let's say you're looking for 2 new employees that work in logistics. We were able to clearly differentiate these 2 jobs, one supply chain manager, one buyer and shipper. If we don't have a data set built for these profiles with a new tool, now it's very hard to do so. Is it now better to combine these 2 jobs in one more general campaign using more general image and a generic copy?
I wouldn't recommend to
No.
do it a generic campaign for those profiles.
Never.
No, I still would recommend to do specific recruitment campaigns for every vacancy separately, and with other audiences.
Yeah, and I think what's very important is the problem is if and as Stephanie showed you examples of a junior versus a more experienced vacancy. What you want to know is that if people are clicking on your ad, you want to make sure you know why they're clicking on the ad. And if you do a generic advertising, you will never know. So by being specific, you'll know if they click on your ad, if they stay longer than 30 seconds on your vacancy page, if you're able to measure that, by the way. But actually, if you don't have that, you cannot use your vacancy or your advertising as a filter, and you cannot start drawing conclusions from that. And then you cannot improve your campaign while it's running. So we would never advise going generic with campaigns. Do you have better results with video ads than with still images?
Actually, I would, well, my first response would be to join our webinar of Thursday, because we're going to discuss that topic on Thursday, but really short. It all depends on your target audience. We see that sometimes a video works better than a picture, sometimes a picture works better than a video. It depends on your audience and not on what you think that will work best or what is nicer or something like that. No, you just have to test it and see which is working better for your audience.
Yeah. It's a question from Lean, good question, where she says the data on Facebook is only kept for 180 days, isn't it? That is very true, Lean.
Yes.
And obviously that also means that the more data you have, the more frequent you do advertisements and the more data you have for the future. So it's not, if you only do one advertising every year, this whole webinar probably wasn't for you, right? That's one thing. Secondly is also, of course, that you can also have data by tracking what's happening on your website through Google Analytics, and also use that to draw some conclusions on that. But yes, you're right. The Facebook data is only valid for 180 days. There's no changes to that as far as we are aware of.
No.
I think so Cassandra is still typing. Yes, thank you, Stephanie and Mark. Not a problem, Cassandra. We're very happy to help out.
Yes.
We have the poll on the...
Yes,
okay.
we do.
We just have a poll. You explain it. I'll look for the poll.
Yes, okay. So we just want to ask you one more question. If you would recommend this webinar to a colleague or to a friend or a family member.
Family, it's very specific.
Yeah,
but
they can be.
Is that, yes, to your friend or colleague.
Yes.
So please submit your votes there, because that's really important for us to understand whether this was a relevant webinar for you.
Yes. You will also receive an email this afternoon with the recordings, but also with a link to our software again, because like you joined our webinar, you will receive a 14-day free trial of our software. So if you want to launch recruitment campaigns with your software, then the software will be 14 days for free. But of course, for media budget, still have to link your credit card.
Exactly. Good advertising plug. And also Stefan says thank you to Stephanie and Mark for the great overview. Thank you, everybody. All right, I think we're getting a lot of thank yous there, but no more questions.
Okay. If you still have some questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. We're really happy to help you.
Yes, and we also answered the question that the software doesn't shut us down after 1 hour. So we keep going live. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day, and hope to see you on Thursday again. Bye.